Hello, welcome to the GMAT Club MBA Spotlight Fair, featuring top business schools from around the world. My name is Harris Khan, and I'm a GMAT Club moderator. And today we have the lovely Chris and her students representing Yale School of Management. Please remember, before I forget, to join Chris directly after the session on a Zoom session to get any other questions answered in a Q&A format. This time around, we're offering some amazing prizes for you to attend this session. The prize drawing will be done at the end of the session, and the link to enter the prize drawing will be posted to the chat. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the GMAT Club channel on YouTube to stay informed of more great sessions coming up. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chris to take it away. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thank you, Harris, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Our aim is to better acquaint you with the Yale School of Management through the perspective of our current students. So I'm going to stay out of the way in this 30-minute chat and introduce you to the stars of the show. Although I should probably tell you my role at SOM. So my name is Kristen Mercuri. I serve as Deputy Director of Admissions here at the School of Management. I've been with the School of Management and Admissions for 8 years now, and in MBA admissions for about 13. So if I may, I'd like to ask that our current students introduce themselves. First, tell us where you're from and a bit about what you were doing prior to the School of Management. Rona, let's start with you.
Sure. So yes, my name is Rona. I grew up outside of New York City in the Hudson Valley. But prior to graduate school, I was actually based in Amman, Jordan, where I was doing economic development work.
Very good.
Hey everyone, I'm Anurag. So I grew up in India and I studied engineering, and then I worked with PwC as a consultant for a couple of years, and then I worked with an education nonprofit for about 3.5 years after that before business school.
Very good. And you're both second years, so anticipating graduating shortly. It happens so fast, right? So class of 2022, tell us a little bit about activities, clubs, conferences, things you might be involved in here at the School of Management.
Some of the clubs that I've been involved in at SOM include the Consulting Club, which I'm the co-president of this year. And then I've also participated in the MBA Impact Investing Network and Training, or MINT, which is an impact investing competition, as well as the Yale Philanthropy Conference. And then I love to attend the events from other clubs, but those are the ones that I've had more of a leadership role in.
Great, thank you.
So in my first year, I was a part of the Economic Development Club and Social Impact Consulting Club and the South Asia Club. Social Impact Consulting Club is basically where you get to be a consultant for a local New Haven-based nonprofit. And in my second year, I'm a co-chair of the South Asia Club.
Great, thank you. And where did you each intern?
I'll just keep this order going. I interned at McKinsey this past summer, and I will be going back there after school, which I'm excited about.
So that answers my next question. So Anurag, why don't you tell us where you interned and your plans post MBA?
So the summer I did a couple of internships. I did one internship with International Finance Corporation, and I did another internship with a fintech startup called Marco. And post-graduation, I'll be joining McKinsey as well as a consultant.
Very good. Congrats to both of you. It's exciting to have plans already in place for 2022. Very good. So Anurag, I see that I don't think you're using a virtual background. Are you in a breakout room?
Yes, I am in a breakout room right now, and this is Evans Hall in my background.
So welcome to Evans Hall. We are here in person. We are fully masked, if the audience is curious, but each of us is in 3 different locations. Rona, are you here in the building as well?
I am. I'm in one of the interview suites, so it's a smaller and quieter room.
Very good, very good. So thanks again for joining us. So the first kind of broader question I'm going to ask both of you, which I think our audience will be very interested in, is, what drew you to the School of Management? Why did you elect to apply here and ultimately enroll? We'll start with you, Rona.
Okay, I'll just keep going. I'll assume okay, so what drew me to Yale SOM is really the people. I think you'll find when you talk to students at SOM, they want to help you make the decision that's right for you. They're not going to try to convince you that this is the right program for you. They'll just tell you about it. And I think students here are really supportive. Like second-year students do all they can to help first-year students get the jobs that they want, learn about different career options. And I really think that the students here are our best resource. But obviously, the professors are amazing. The activities we have on offer are amazing. The building is beautiful, but it's really the students that attracted me to SOM.
Let me ask a follow-up question. How did you meet the students? So this was pre-pandemic, right?
Yes, it was pre-pandemic. I started having conversations with some people who I respected, who are actually a bit more maybe senior in the field. So I was in the international development field, and I thought I want to get an MBA, but I want to get an MBA from a place that sort of is like in line with my values, which I think we're going to talk about in a little bit. And so the Yale's mission is business and society. And so I was trying to find an MBA program that really spoke to both my desire to build a skill set as well as stay true to myself and what I care about in the world. And then I ultimately was able to connect with some current students, and they were exceptionally helpful, and I'm still in touch with them today.
And Anurag, what drew you to Yale SOM?
To start off, I was working in social impact space, and I was looking for a program which is really committed to to social impact. And I looked at the offerings at SOM, and it resonated very closely with my values and what I was looking at. And the other thing was what very similar to what Rona said, that I was also looking at a community which I could really connect with, and the conversations which I had with the current students and students who had graduated from SOM, I felt that this is definitely a group of people that I want to go to class with and graduate with.
Our mission, we very much are a mission-driven school here, and the mission is to educate leaders for business and society. So what does that mean to you, and how does that kind of play out? How do you observe that mission in practice here at the School of Management?
Definitely. I think it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone here goes and works for a nonprofit, right? It more means that we are all thinking about what is best for society, no matter what organization we're in, and especially when we're in leadership in large private sector organizations. I think coming from a place where you're caring about the role of business in society and doing well while doing good and all of those things is sort of what it means to me broadly. And then how I see it manifest here on campus. One, in the conversations students have as we're learning and new ideas, people consistently challenge ideas and think critically about what our role is as we sort of graduate from this institution and have more credibility to make larger impact decisions. But also in the activities we do, I participated in the Global Social Enterprise class, where I consulted with a startup in Kenya that was trying to create free public Wi-Fi, sort of accessibility to the internet in Kenya. And that was a course that I was able to take, be on a team with a group of my classmates, and led by a professor. And so there are a lot of opportunities that you can engage with as well. I'll mention two other things quickly. The Mint competition I mentioned is also very impact focused, but also making a business case for impact within a startup. And the Yale Philanthropy Conference is actually, I think it's the only MBA organized philanthropy conference at least in the US, and it's really large and really successful, and we have leaders from across the nonprofit world and outside of it come and speak every year at that conference, and it's student organized and very easy to get involved with once you're here.
Yeah, great, thank you. Anurag?
So business and society have a lot of interdependencies on each other, and they influence each other very strongly. And so like I said, so when I was looking at business schools, I was looking at programs which really balance these two things really well. And I felt that SOM really balances and understands the impact of business and society on each other. And a couple of things which really reinforces that at SOM is, like, one thing which Rona mentioned. I was a part of the global social entrepreneurship in Brazil, and in which I was basically a consultant for a social impact accelerator in Brazil, which was trying to promote for-profit businesses, but which are making an impact in education and healthcare outcomes in Brazil. I was also part of a social impact consulting club, where I was a consultant for a New Haven-based nonprofit, which is promoting art and culture, and through that is trying to promote educational outcomes among underserved populations here in New Haven. So these are different opportunities which SOM provides, where a lot of them are like students are very heavily involved in the organization of these things. So you not only make an impact, but you also create a platform for other students to come on board and make an impact.
So when we talk to prospective students from a mission standpoint, candidates always want to know, like, what's distinctive about your program versus the other top MBA programs. So just give me the bullet, like what's different, what's unique. You go to different websites, you even hear various missions of schools, and it kind of sounds similar. So what are the distinguishing factors? And we often talk about the three things that set the school apart. One being the connection to Greater Yale University. As a business school, we very much want, and actually as a broader university, we want our students to meet and collaborate and know each other and leverage each other. And so the school management is unique in that your second year, I think the most tangible example of this, second year of your MBA is all electives. You can take those electives in any Yale University classroom. And we have a large cohort of joint degree students. So they're earning their medical degree, their law degree, they're studying architecture and other things, as well as earning their MBA. So there are many kind of examples on how you're connected to Greater Yale. For the two of you, we haven't spoken before this conversation, so I'm very curious to know how you may have leveraged that opportunity to be engaged with a Greater University, or how you've seen some of your peers do so. Rona, back to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes I've heard it called like One Yale, and I've definitely seen that in practice. I will admit I am also a joint degree with the Jackson Institute for Global Affairs, and so I've taken classes there, of course, but through SOM, you can take classes at the Yale Law School, you can take classes at the School of the Environment, and you can take PhD level classes in art history if that's what you wanted, and if you were thinking that maybe you want to work for a museum one day, like you can really act on whatever your specific interests are. And I think professors across the university are just really excited to have students from all the schools on campus represented in their class. I'm currently taking a class called Strategic Management of Nonprofits, which is actually at SOM, but the class has students from the Divinity School, from the Global Affairs program, from the School of the Environment, and from the law school, all who are really interested in learning about what it looks like to manage a nonprofit well. And so you find really interesting conversations with students from across the university, and I find that really, really exciting. And I think that's I think it goes in line with the Business and Society mission, because we're able to explore content areas beyond only what is taught in an MBA program.
Great. And Anurag?
So I haven't taken any course outside of SOM. I plan to do it in the spring semester, but I'll share some of the examples from my friends. I have one friend who wants to get into real estate investing space, and he's taking classes in School of Architecture. And another friend who's interested in the clean energy space, and he's taking class in School of Environment. So I have friends who are interested in health tech and health space, and they're taking classes in School of Public Health. So if you are looking to build expertise in fields, and in certain fields where you want to build a career in, you have so much more opportunity across wider Yale to take classes, and that's an amazing opportunity that Yale provides.
Second thing that I think makes our curriculum experience quite distinctive, the global opportunities. As you're quite familiar, we initiated the Global Network for Advanced Management, which has greatly expanded the global opportunities for our current students. We're actually the first business school to require global studies. And now I think it's safe to say we have more global opportunities than any other MBA program in the world. That certainly looks different right now, unfortunately, during the pandemic. But both of you spoke about some global opportunities. Is there anything that you would like to add on, why you made those choices, or how you feel they may benefit your development and maybe your career goals?
I would add one clarification. So this GSE class that Anurag and I both took, he took it for Brazil and I took it focused on Kenya. Without COVID, we would have spent our spring breaks in country working with the organization that we are consulting for. Obviously, recent history has not allowed us to do that, but in general, I think it's really important to, again, this business and society perspective is really to realize that we live in a really globalized world, and that the positions we take on are I mean, for Anurag and me, we're going to work at McKinsey. They have offices all over the world, and we will be tackling really complex challenges that impact people all over the world. And so it's important for us to have the perspective not only of where we might come from and the New Haven area and where we might have lived, but also to expose ourselves to other contexts so that we can keep those in mind as we continue to become leaders in business and society.
That's right. And I think there's at least a few IE trips are going to be traveling in March, right? We're actually sending folks. Yeah, that's very exciting. Anurag, anything to add on the global opportunities, your experience?
Sure. Like as an international student who has never lived in US before, I not only want to understand businesses in US, but other parts of the world as well. And beyond the things that we have talked about, like I think we also get to interact with people from other business schools across the world. Like for one of the projects, I worked with people from Lagos Business School in Nigeria, and people from my class got to work with people from Japan, Indonesia, and other parts of the world, which basically helps people to broaden the experience and perspectives, even though they're not able to travel during these times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in a pre-pandemic setting, which the two of you, unfortunately, your class hasn't experienced, we would have there are two built-in periods of time in October and March, so twice in an academic cycle, where students would be globetrotting. And in each academic year, students would have upwards of 60 different global experiences to choose from on 5 different program types, different platforms. Again, that's changed in the current moment, but we're looking to hit the road, or hit the skies, I should say, again soon. So that brings us to the third piece of our academic experience here at the Yale School of Management that's quite distinctive, which is the integrated core curriculum. It's unlike a traditional MBA core, which most of our peers teach some version of. Which typically looks like a discipline-based MBA core curriculum. We take on one, discipline, marketing, finance, et cetera, kind of in a silo. And at the School of Management, we had an integrated core organized by organizational perspectives. So the 10 core courses are entitled the customer, the investor, the innovator, the executive, et cetera. So you kind of put on the hat of that stakeholder, and you approach multiple disciplines within each course. And oftentimes there'll be raw cases or cases that are taught and discussed across classes, and you also see team teaching within the core curriculum. So all of this is unique to Yale. We think it's much more dynamic, much more real world. It's certainly much more challenging, both for the faculty and probably the students, I would say. So are there any pieces of your first year, so this is all delivered in the first year, which was last year for you, any aspects of the integrated core curriculum that you found incredibly helpful or distinctive that you would like to talk about? Rona?
I can go ahead.
Let's go. Let's switch it up. Let's go.
So like I worked briefly in consulting before, and I prepared for consulting interviews, and we're going into consulting. So and when a consulting project is basically built out, these are exactly the silos in which, or these are exactly the buckets in which they look at a problem, like customers, competitors, investors. So so this is how in the real world, I think businesses approach any problem. And so this really logically makes a lot of sense the way core curriculum is structured at SOM, that you have those exact buckets that you learn from those perspectives. So I think it prepares you really well when you actually go into the real world of business.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think throughout my recruiting and my summer experience, it really felt like the perspectives that we took on during the integrated core, we were really applying them. And obviously, I don't know the counterfactual of going through a more skills-based program, but it feels like generally you gain the skills in the context of a role, and learning the skills in a silo without applying them can sometimes be difficult to then recall when you're in the situation. And so by sort of learning them in the context of the stakeholder who you might be, I thought it was easier to apply on the job.
Great, very good. I think it's worth mentioning that the student to faculty ratio here at SOM is 8-1. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you know your faculty, they know you. We work in a glass building, as you can see by Anurag's background. So you can see the lines of sight here are really incredible, and you can kind of connect easily, have lunch with faculty, coffee, etc. How would you describe the Yale SOM community and culture?
As Rona mentioned before, I think the SOM, the community really stands out. It's an incredibly supportive community. I recruited for consulting, and I felt the other students and alums to be incredibly supportive in terms of preparing and in terms of helping out how to approach the process. And especially for someone, it was my first time in US, and I think even moving in a COVID pandemic year, I think things were very seamless because of the people around me who really helped me settle down here and figure things out for the first time. So I would say the community is the best part of SOM.
Mm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think in like three contexts to speak to. One, we have a learning team, and it felt like everyone has their own spikes. You know, some people on my team already had their CFA and understood a lot of the classes we were taking, and I was really new to a lot of that content, whereas I had come from international development, and so when we took our class on state and society, I might have been able to contribute more. And there was always this understanding that we all have our own skills and we want to share our knowledge with one another. In terms of recruiting, Anurag said, it feels like everyone really embodies this a rising tide raises all ships mentality. So it really doesn't feel like you're competing against one another. You're all just striving for excellence and supporting one another, giving one another feedback, casing one another to prepare so that we can all do well in the process.
Any events or initiatives you think are a great reflection of your thoughts in the community, like an internship fund or voices or Friendsgiving, I think, is coming up. Are there any of those types of events that would be helpful for the audience to hear about?
Yeah, I think those two things are really awesome. So the internship fund is a annual student-led auction and sort of like fundraising effort to fund students to do internships that they otherwise might not be able to do for like social impact organizations. But one that I actually didn't participate a lot in my first year and have been really enjoying this year is Voices. And Voices is a platform for students to really share anything they want to share. Often people really talk about their backgrounds, their life story, and how they've ended up here. And it really helps you see the diversity in our class. I think sometimes in an MBA program, it's easy to think, oh, like everyone here knows what they're doing. And when you go to Voices and you hear your fellow classmates really open up about their lives, it helps really build that trusting community that goes beyond the academic and the professional and into that sort of like personal space.
And I want to say there are over 50 clubs currently. Sometimes it can be hard to keep track of club life, but between social and professional clubs, 50 or so. There's just too many things to choose from and not enough hours in the day.
Yes, definitely. It feels like you're drinking from a fire hose in some ways, and you have to just decide what you're going to prioritize in that day or that week.
What advice do you have for prospective students? If you can think back to when you were in that space in the beginning of your journey and thinking about where you wanted to go to school, if you wanted to go to school, and you're learning about different programs and trying to decipher the difference between them and what would be the best fit for you. Is there any advice that you have for audience, especially during a time where, again, at the present moment, I think doors will be opening soon, but not in advance of round 2 application deadlines. Any advice you'd have for our audience?
Try to identify whether the program is whether you connect with the program into the professional goals and with the personal objectives. So personal objectives in terms of, do you connect with the student body? Do you see yourself having a great time in that specific school? And the professional goals, like for example, for me, it was the SOM's focus on business and society, which I could really connect with. Mm-hmm. So definitely speak to SOM has student ambassadors. So if you have questions about the school, reach out to them and have conversations with them to understand whether it makes sense from professional and personal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think thinking about what you're really trying to get out of your graduate school experience, you can first decide, okay, is it the MBA? Is the MBA the degree I want? And then from there thinking, okay, if it is an MBA, which of these MBA programs best serves my goals? And your goals can be community focused, they can be career focused. And then from there, trying to sort of figure out which program is right for you. And I definitely recommend talking to current students. They're probably the best informed to help you figure that out.
Yeah, that's definitely my approach in admissions. We try to put, especially in a virtual world when we can, do more, I think, online without traveling. We try to put all of you in front of the audiences as much as we can, because certainly you're the best resource for our prospective students.
Let's talk about round 1 versus round 2 and round 3, kind of the recommended application date. Obviously, round 1 is passed, so round 2 and 3 now. Whether or not there's scholarships available and anything that they need to be aware in terms of any subtle differences between the different rounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. So we do have 3 rounds. The first round is obviously passed, so we're looking at round 2, which is January 6th or 7th. And that's our largest round. It's twice the size of round 1. It just seems to be the best timing for most people. And, especially for someone who maybe wants to retake an exam or is still doing their research. And do I want to do this and where do I want to do this? And then round 3 is quite small. But we obviously, model for 3 rounds, both seats and scholarships. But, I would say to candidates to choose the round that's really the best fit for you. You don't need to rush to get into round 1 if it feels like a rush. Same with 2. If round 3 is really the best time for you, apply in round 3. So yeah, there's no like secret sauce or preference given to someone who applies in an earlier round from an admissions perspective.
Okay, fantastic. And keeping with the application theme, maybe a little bit of explanation as to how Yale evaluates an application. So where do they put emphasis on? Is there a big emphasis on the GMAT or their undergraduate grades or recommendation letters? And then I'll have some follow-up questions on that.
Yeah. So we're really looking for 3 things. The first is academic preparedness. We need to know you can do the work. We want to bring candidates in who are going to be successful in the classroom. It's a highly academic, rigorous program. You're going to go to class. This is not a program where you're going to get the credential and show up and, be social, but not go to class. You're going to go to class, and we want to make sure our students are prepared for that. So for us at Yale, we have a unique approach, actually, in forecasting someone's ability to do the work. We certainly look at transcripts in the academic profile. Test scores are required, a GMAT or GRE. We have no preference. And then we have a third piece that's unique to us, which is called the behavioral assessment. I could probably talk for 15 minutes on this particular piece, but I'll keep it as brief as I can. But this is the newest piece of our application, and it was we worked in collaboration with ETS, the maker of GRE, to have a scientifically based tool that our prospective students can take, where we are looking to assess their inter and intrapersonal skills. So this is not a standardized test. And unlike the transcripts and test scores, this is looking at more kind of how you might engage in our community. What are some of the intangible skills that you have that, as we know, can be more telling than a GMAT score, right? So we look at these 3 things in tandem in assessing, how you will do academically in the classroom. The second thing we're looking for is professional impact. We have students coming from a wide variety of backgrounds, from healthcare to education to finance, entrepreneurs, etc. We want to know that you're good at what you do. And we lean heavily on the recommenders to help tell that story. So my personal advice to candidates is often I tell them, take the time to sit down with or have a call with your recommender and talk them through why you're applying to the schools you're applying to. What are the pieces of your experience with that recommender you think would be interesting for the admissions committee to know? You kind of prime them for some of the stories you want them to tell. Maybe there was a growth experience. Maybe you have an informal leadership experience that your recommender is well positioned to talk about. Maybe you don't have a lot of quant in your undergrad transcript, but you have a quant heavy role. Maybe your recommender can talk about your quantitative ability. So again, I think it's, you don't write your recs, but I think you can influence them if you take the time to help prime your recommenders. And the third thing that we're looking for is good community members. And that's the hardest thing, I think, sometimes to tease out, but that's very important to us. The mission, as you're hearing from Rona and Anurag, really resonates. And I think the common threads I see in our students is they take an interest in each other and each other's success versus I'm competing against you. And I think we tend to attract students with broad interest. And so maybe they're interested in finance and they're spending their Fridays in New York, and they're very laser focused on that field, but they might also sit in a nonprofit, board fellows position. And they might be really supporting our internship fund, which Rona mentioned. So I think that our students tend to, again, take an interest in each other and also have, greater lines of sight in general in their professional and personal lives. So we're trying to kind of tease that out a bit in the application as best we can.
Great, fantastic. Well, that's all the time we have today. I want to thank Chris, Rona, Anurag for all of you guys to give in your time and really talk about the program. I'm sure everyone is very excited to learn more. So obviously, Chris, you'll be doing a Zoom session right after this. The link for that, folks, is in the chat. So please go ahead there. If you haven't heard any of your questions answered, Chris will happily answer any additional questions there. But that's it for everything today. So I really appreciate you guys coming out here. Those of you who are watching, listening, stay tuned to the next YouTube chat to hear the next school. But from ourselves here, Chris, Rona, and Anurag, have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thanks again.
Thank
Bye.
you.